It's James Murray. We're in the NetNewsLedger newsroom talking Politics 2.0. Joining us today is Charla Robinson, the president of the Chamber of Commerce.
How you doing, James?
Very good. Nice week this week. The budget's come out. The Chamber of Commerce, of course, has some viewpoints on it. What do our readers and viewers need to know?
Well, certainly the budget was a lot of spending and a lot of programs that, from a social side are certainly things that the public might be interested in. So lots of funding for healthcare, childcare, seniors care, those sorts of things. But with that spending also will come, of course, higher costs. And so there actually is a change in taxes for business that will result in higher costs for business, which we're concerned about because of all of the other increases in operating costs for businesses in Ontario, things like minimum wage, and all of the changes to employment standards. So concerned about that added burden to business that's already struggling with a transition. For Northern Ontario, certainly really pleased to see the promise for $150 million per year for the NOHFC fund. That's a huge increase. Again, that's after the election, so a little bit of a carrot to try to get folks to keep this government in power. Also, there was a continuation of some forestry programs, some continuation of lower energy costs for large industrial users, and funding for broadband expansion, which of course we know here in the north is very important. So lots of things, but again, lots of spending, which will result in a higher debt long term, and of course going back into deficit for the next at least 3 years, which is a concern after working for so long to get out of that deficit. So lots of things to consider.
There wasn't anything in the budget for business on, say, for example, hydro prices.
No changes there. I mean, certainly they continued the electricity industrial program, and of course they pointed us back to the reminder around the discount for hydro costs that was announced last summer, but nothing really new. Just sort of reminding us of what's been done in the past.
Now, on the minimum wage issue, the Chamber has been very outspoken over this. Partly the speed.
Yes, mostly
everything
the speed.
came so fast.
Yes.
I've been talking to different business people, and there's business people literally saying they're sliding over the edge because of this.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm hearing as well. We're into the end of the first 3 months of the minimum wage, and I think people were doing projections as to what they thought it was going to cost their business, but they maybe didn't actually know the full scope of all the things in the changes to the employment standards. So they were focused mostly on minimum wage, but then there was a whole bunch of other changes that they didn't really consider into their calculations for expenses. So things like minimum shift times and, staff being allowed to refuse to take a last minute shift if someone calls in sick. And, how does that impact your business? But the biggest thing I'm hearing the concerns about is the changes to stat pay, so holiday pay. Major change to the way that's calculated, and in some cases an individual who has worked one shift in the 2-week period can get paid for the full day of a stat, which is the same as what folks who are working a full-time position would get for that stat. So there's some concern about not only the huge cost. If you've got a lot of part-time staff, they could be getting a lot more in stat pay, but also the fairness between those who are working full-time and what they get for stat pay versus those who aren't working full-time and what they get for stat pay. So lots of things we're starting to see sort of roll out as people are adjusting to the changes.
Do you think there was enough consultation by the government with business and with the Chambers of Commerce to get a full impact of what was going to be the results?
Well, I think that they certainly had consultations scheduled, but it very much seemed that going into the discussion, the decision was non-negotiable. So you can consult till the cows come home, but if you're not actually willing to listen to the concerns that are being addressed, which we and small businesses and chambers across Ontario were very clear that there would be significant challenges for the quick implementation of minimum wage, but also all of the other costs. And we just felt like they didn't really want to listen to what we had to say, and they didn't want to consider what that really meant from a dollars and cents standpoint.
So they've probably done a bit of polling, done a little bit of backroom political, working the numbers, and said, well, these business people might not vote for us so let's go this way.
Well, certainly, I mean, there was another political party who had made a promise already to move to $15 an hour minimum wage. And so a little bit of that, trying to position yourself in a line to potentially pull voters from other parties if that was a key issue. Definitely a bit of strategy playing out there. Now, I mean, I think we just saw Thunder Bay Ventures came out this week with a new report as well on the local sort of pulse on minimum wage, and they're projecting, a range of job losses. And certainly I think that business owners are now starting to say, I'm really getting a feel for what this means for my business. I'm going to be sitting down with my accountant and saying, okay, if this continues moving forward, what is the plan? How do I do this? So
there's always challenges. What's upcoming and new and exciting at the Chamber of Commerce?
There's always lots going on. We've got our Business Awards Gala on April the 14th, which is our 24th annual celebration of business success, and so many amazing nominees again this year, so it's always exciting to get everybody in a room and really celebrate the good things that are happening. It's you have to take those moments to celebrate the positive things, and so looking forward to that. And then we also have coming up the following week, April the 17th, we have the new president, Rocco Rossi, from the Ontario Chamber of Commerce, coming to do a luncheon, and he'll be talking about the Ontario Economic Report, which talks a lot about business confidence in Ontario, business, how business feels about the direction that the province is going from an economic standpoint. And so looking forward to hearing what he has to say and how that relates to Thunder Bay as well.
And we'll share the information on how you can connect. It'll be right down here on the bottom of the website. And it's been a pleasure, Charla, having you in.
Great to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Need you in a couple times now between now and we're moving into the full stream of election, and we're going to be bringing in pundits, and we're going to change how Thunder Bay talks politics.
Sounds great. Look forward to it.
This is James with NetNewsLedger, Politics 2.0 in Thunder Bay. Thanks for tuning in.